What is up, harvesters? Welcome back to my subscribers, and if you're new here, my name is Ken. Welcome to Hobby Harvest. So today I want to talk to you guys about how to shape your food plots. So there's a few different shapes and designs we can use for our food plots, but each of them are used for something slightly different. I'm going to get into that in this video. So I always talk a ton in all of my videos about when you have a food plot of putting it into a shape that allows you to put more deer on that food plot. Now, first of all, let's start off with well, how many acres of food plots should you have? So just very quickly, if you have 40 acres of land, I like to start with 2 acres of food, and that's a good starting point. And then you kind of just have to see your browse pressure, how attractive they are to your deer herd, how big your deer herd is, and then you can adjust from there, year to year. But when we make these food plots, I don't put one big 2-acre food plot on my land. What I would do in that situation is I would put 4 half-acre food plots on my land. So, okay, when we start to make these half-acre food plots, what shape are we gonna put them in? I know a lot of guys think, you know what, you just put them in an oval, you put them in a square, a rectangle, whatever. Something the shape of like a garden or a field on your property, away you go. And you know what, that will work because food plots are so attractive. But you're not going to stack as many deer on that food plot as you could if you shaped them slightly different. So the first shape I want to get into is like a boomerang shape. So this is essentially just 2, say, 1/4 acre food plots that sort of join in the middle, but there's cover or there's something that cuts down on those sight lines between the 2 of them, so that deer that are on one half of that food plot can't see deer on the other half of that food plot. Now, there's a few reasons why this is really advantageous. So first of all, doe family groups, they usually don't like each other. There'll be some scuffling, there'll be pushing around, some, hoofing at each other. You guys have probably seen this if you have your trail cameras out for long enough. But what they do is they kind of put pressure on each other. They don't like to be near each other. But if you have a food plot that's in the shape of a boomerang, you can have one doe family group over here and you can have another doe family group over here, and they can get along just fine. Where if that was a bigger open area, they might kind of try to take a corner of each of it, but there's going to be some butting of heads. Those mature does from either of those groups are going to come in and kind of scrap with each other or whatever, and that's just something you kind of want to avoid, because if they're putting pressure on each other, there's other deer are going to completely stay out of the area, especially those like younger bucks really want absolutely nothing to do with that. And if there's too much of that going on your land, those young bucks are going to go find somewhere else to call their home territory. So you really want to keep those doe family groups under control, kind of give them their own private pocket to go live in, even if it is on the same food plot, because you're going to keep more deer on your property, but you're going to keep more bucks on your property also. Now, a lot of hunting is so focused on the rut, and during the rut is just that magical time of year when deer can be anywhere at any time because they're just chasing all the time. But the season covers much more than just the couple weeks that encompass the rut, and we want to make sure that we have deer on our property for that entire time, not just for the rut. And so the way we do this is by giving them their own little pocket, their own little segment, their own little compartmentalized piece of your property, be that in a bedding area or be that on a food plot. If you guys are feeling like you're getting some value out of this video, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we'll get on to the next one. So with that being said, I want to get into the second shape of a food plot, and that is essentially like a snake shape, but all it really is like a widened deer trail. So imagine you were going to make yourself a man-made deer trail that went through the woods to connect point A to point B. You would want that to like snake through your property. You don't want that to be in a big straight line. Deer do not like those like shooting lanes cut into your property. They avoid those, especially those mature bucks will avoid those straight lines cut through your property. So you need these to bend and weave through your property. But what you can do is widen them out a little bit, plant something in there, and then this is a great way to put some extra food on your property, but also get deer to move from point A to point B, which we achieve with man-made deer trails, but by creating it as a food source or as a browse source for them to get through there, that just sweetens it up a little bit. And this is something you would do if you did find that like boomerang shaped food plot that you put in last year was getting browsed down really quick. You might want to just sweeten that up by putting another one of these like little trails, these snake food plots somewhere on your property. And so the thing with all of these food plots I should mention is, like, obviously with this snake one end and the other end, they should be pointing towards something else that you want these deer to be going towards. You really can steer where these deer go on your property, but even with that boomerang shaped food plot, the ends of those should definitely have man-made deer trails on them, and they should be pointing off towards other attractions on your property, be those food sources, be it other food plots, or be it other natural food sources, like where you have a bunch of fruit trees or acorns or something on your property, or even just towards a bedding area. You kind of want all of these attractions on your property to connect. So always kind of keep that in mind when you're building these food plots, of like where they're going to connect, that they point off towards another attraction. And if you guys are in the market for new trail cameras, I'm gonna leave a link down in the description below of the ones I use. They're really great quality that isn't gonna break the bank because they're not one of the big name brand ones. I use them for B-roll here on the channel. They work out great. So if you are in the market for them, go ahead, go click on that link down in the description. So lastly, I wanna get into the third type of food plot shape, and that is going to be those big open fields. Now, in certain parts of the country, your deer herd is just so big, it is so attracted to these food plots because there's probably not a great amount of natural food sources available. So they're gonna be eating on these food plots every single meal of the day. They're gonna be bedding off right on the edge of them. Now, this is great for harvesting whatever your goals are, because these deer are just always in the area, but you have to be very careful hunting these areas, obviously, getting in and out because you can't spook them off of these. But in these situations, you do just need to keep adding food, and sooner or later, you can't have all of these little compartmentalized food plots. You, at some point, just need at least one big food plot, almost like a farmer's field, like a small farm field, that is just food just to get them through the year. But then you actually have all these other compartmentalized food sources, these boomerang shaped food sources, these snake shaped food sources, to kind of guide them around that bigger food source. Because what's going to end up happening here is those doe family groups will want to hit up that bigger food source, and those bucks then are going to come to those smaller little pocketed little honey hole food plots that are hidden off away from the main big food source. And so that's your chance to like specifically target a mature buck on one of those smaller food sources, because he doesn't like that social pressure that those does put on each other, and then obviously on him as well during the rut. Completely different time of year. I'm talking about the other 95+% of the year, when those bucks just want to be left alone. They just want their own quiet place in the woods where they can get a bite to eat without those big doe family groups putting pressure on them. So if you guys enjoyed this video, YouTube thinks you're going to enjoy this one too. So why don't you go click on that one and see if they're right.